Inside an old building, a man tells a woman that the wedding gift will total 8 million yen, 1 million plus 120,000. The young man places a hand on his chest and explains that he has been saving for 11 years just for this day. The woman's mother scolds him for speaking like that, saying she isn't selling her daughter, but that sincerity must be shown through money, since in her view sincerity is measured in yen, while the chubby girl sitting nearby is the young man's girlfriend, Kawasaki Masa. Her father, Yoshio, mentions that after the young man lost his parents, he inherited a nice apartment, and if he agreed to sell it, he could easily get the money. But the man, named Yudo, refuses, saying he can't just sell what his father left behind. Masa's mother, Tammy, grows angry and says he clearly doesn't love her daughter if he won't make that sacrifice, but Masa tells her mother to stop and walks over to Yudo. Later, outside the building, she asks if he really can't find that 1.6 million yen, and he says he'll try to figure something out, but explains that he has no other source of money. She tells him he should borrow from a loan shark and criticizes him for not knowing how to earn money. Though Yudo dresses sharply and looks confident, even he struggles with women's demands, but eventually he agrees to find a way to get the money and promises that once he does, they can finally marry. Masa tells him she'll wait for him to fulfill his duty. The scene moves to a cafe. Yudo's friends ask why he's eating so little, and he explains that he's saving money for something more important than food. Nearby, Masa is chatting with a friend, unaware that Yudo works there. Her friend asks what happened to the rich man she was supposed to marry, the son of a company owner, and Masa replies that he only gave her 100,000 yen, so she left him. When asked about her current boyfriend, she says he's even worse. He has some inheritance but refuses to sell it to give her money, and then she reveals her plan that she's pregnant, so she'll marry him, have the baby, then divorce him and take half of his inheritance. Yudo overhears everything and is crushed. She doesn't notice him and even calls for him to bring water. When he doesn't respond, she pounds on the table, irritated. Yudo suddenly turns away and walks off without looking back, while she curses in confusion. Later in the break room, Yudo crouches down crying. He gets a phone call asking him to pick up someone named Saki at the airport, and he agrees since his shift has just ended. At home, he takes a shower, still sobbing. He screams that all Masa ever cared about was money. Then something strange happens when a voice speaks to him, claiming that his suffering has caused a shift in the global economy, and the system explains that everything in the world has lost 1 million in value except his own money, which now gains 5% interest each day. Yudo thinks it's nonsense and leaves the house. On the bus to the airport, he asks how much the fare costs, but people laugh at him. They mock him for talking about paying in yen, saying even earning 100 sen a month is good. A sen is now worth 1/100th of a yen. Confused, Yudo says a bus ticket used to cost 1,000 yen. A man in a suit tells him to stop acting rich, since only a fool would talk about yen like that. Yudo insists he can pay, showing 200 yen. But the man laughs, saying no poor guy like him could have that much money, and eventually offers to pay Yudo's fare to end the argument. Yudo, thinking it's all some weird prank, pulls out 2 1,000 yen coins. Everyone gasps in shock. The man in the suit suspects the coins are fake, but Yudo starts remembering the mysterious voice. When he offers 1 coin to the driver and asks for change, the driver says he'll need to contact the company first. The amount is too large. Realizing what's happening, Yudo understands his money is now unbelievably valuable, and the world around him is broke. To avoid attention, he gets off the bus. He walks past stores where luxury items sell for next to nothing: a phone for 1 sen, a designer bag for 17 sen, a Rolex for 1 yen. His own 10,000 yen notes are practically priceless. At the bank, Yudo asks to open an account and deposit 100,000 yen. The clerk stares in disbelief and says she must call her manager. After checking the bills, the clerk returns sweating. The money is genuine, and the system explains that the currency has changed so that 1 yen equals 100 sen and 1 sen equals 1,000 rin, making it a complicated system where everything else is now worth far less than yen. Yudo is escorted to a VIP room. The clerk confirms his deposit has been processed and asks if he wants to deposit the entire amount. He says yes, but asks to keep 3 yen to pay small bills. Suddenly, the door bursts open. Masa enters with an older man. She proudly announces that she did what she was told and is now married to the old man, saying their relationship has become even more exciting. The old man, amused, admires his prize, saying it's thrilling to steal another man's woman. Yudo crosses his arms and says he never thought she would stoop so low, and Masa, startled, asks if he came to take out the loan she told him to get. Yudo coldly replies that he would never waste money on someone like her. Masa shrugs, saying a woman as beautiful as her shouldn't belong to just one man. Yudo stands up, calling her the worst woman he's ever met, and says he's leaving now that his deposit is complete. But the clerk stops him, saying the regional manager wants to speak with him. The old man, angry at being insulted, orders Yudo to stay, boasting that he is the president of the powerful Tenri group. He warns that he could freeze all of Yudo's assets instantly. When security guards appear, Yudo prepares to fight, but instead, the guards bow to him. A man named Baokatsu enters, introducing himself as the regional administrator. He congratulates Yudo on depositing 100,000 yen and presents him with a diamond black card, a symbol of extreme wealth. Masa and the old man are speechless as they accuse Yudo of using counterfeit money. But Baokatsu dismisses their claims, saying the money was verified and authentic, and adds that because of their behavior, the bank will reconsider its partnership with the old man's company. The man panics, begging them not to freeze his assets, as it would ruin him. Meanwhile, Masa throws herself at Yudo, claiming she made a mistake and always found him more handsome. Yudo orders the staff to remove both her and the old man, and they are thrown out of the bank. Later at the airport, Yudo realizes Saki must have already arrived and is waiting for him. A lively, cheerful girl suddenly hugs him, teasing him for making her wait. He apologizes and offers to buy her anything she wants, but she simply asks for ice cream. Yudo feels his heart soften as she seems sweet and genuine. They discuss getting a drink, and Yudo suggests Starbucks, but Saki points out that airport prices are too high. Just then, a group of guys walk by. One of them bumps Yudo's shoulder and mockingly offers to pay for them, saying Yudo looks poor. Saki tells Yudo she met them recently. They'll all be classmates soon. However, she grabs his arm and insists they leave because the guys are acting strange. One of them warns her that she'll regret rejecting him. Another tells his friend to stop wasting time on poor people. At that moment, a small notification appears before Yudo's eyes, giving him a mission to spend 1 yen within 2 hours, and if he does, he'll earn a physical enhancement. Smiling, Yudo flips a coin into the air, ready for what comes next. The other girl keeps clinging to Shinji and tells him to ignore those poor people. She then complains that her throat is dry. Shinji rushes off to get her a drink. A crowd suddenly pushes through the area and bumps into Shinji. He yells at them to watch it, but no one listens. 2 nearby girls chat about how everything at Starbucks seems free today. Shinji and his friends are confused. Shinji goes to the counter and asks if it is true. The cashier says a generous customer is paying for everyone for now. Yudo shrugs and orders iced coffee for all of them. Saki enjoys it right away. Shinji demands to know what Yudo is doing, but Yudo tells him not to worry and even offers one for him. Shinji refuses and says he does not need anyone to buy him coffee. People around them glare at him for acting tough while someone else is paying. The crowd turns on him fast. He is shoved and stepped on until he crumples to the floor. When someone asks the girl and his friend if they know him, they deny it. Yudo adds a parting jab and tells Shinji not to try flirting with his sister using pocket change. Yudo and Saki leave, and as she walks ahead in tiny shorts, she asks if he is really okay with spending so much, but he says that for her safety and comfort, no price is too high. They wait for a taxi. A mission prompt appears for Yudo to spend 1 yen within 2 hours to receive a physical enhancement, so he flips a coin with a smile and tries to complete it by buying coffee for the crowd. But when that isn't enough, he puts money into something else to reach the amount. The mission completes, and he receives a pill that boosts his strength. Saki asks where their taxi is. A red car pulls up. A woman with black hair rolls down the window, and Yudo realizes it, manager Yanagi from his workplace. Yudo says he came to pick up his sister for university. Yanagi reminds him he has a big presentation that afternoon. Even though he no longer needs money, he has worked on this project for months and wants to see it through. Saki says she will come along and jokes that he should enjoy riding with a beautiful woman. Yudo tells her not to tease him, and he asks Yanagi for a ride. In the car, Yanagi urges him to review the presentation and prepare. If the project is approved, the bonus will be huge. Yudo says he knows she is pushing hard, but promises to do his best. She playfully tests his focus with a little pinch, and he asks her to cut it out. She only smiles. They arrive at the company. Agata, a coworker, tells Yudo to throw his materials away. Yudo asks what he means. Agata claims he is taking over Yudo's role and doesn't want him to show up anymore, even tossing Yudo's work to the floor, but Yudo demands it back. Agata raises his hand to slap him and asks if he wants to settle it with a fight. Yudo has just taken the strength pill. With one quick move, he twists Agata's arm and slams him down. Agata lies there, stunned that the weak guy got so strong. A senior manager steps in and orders Yudo to let go. He says Yudo lacks skills and that Agata will present the project instead, but Yudo protests. He reminds them he built the project from the start. The senior manager is about to dismiss him when manager Yanagi slaps a hand on the table and declares that Yudo will present since he created it. Agata, bent and beaten, whines about being blocked from presenting, but Yanagi says he isn't capable because he doesn't understand the project. Agata scowls and threatens to settle it later, then stomps off. Yanagi tells Yudo not to worry and to get ready. He thinks that even though she is strict and work-obsessed, she treats him fairly. Later in the conference room, the presentation ends. The vice president praises the team and says they exceeded expectations. Yanagi gives Yudo a high five. Then she suddenly presses herself close to him. A mustached man adds that once the company president arrives, they will discuss how to handle the debts. Yanagi is confused and asks what debts they mean. Agata steps in and says there is a payroll problem, explaining that the company owes hundreds of yen and cannot cover salaries. Yanagi refuses to accept it, explaining that she checks the numbers herself. He smirks and says the old executives faked the calculations. She realizes it could have been a trap from the start. He calls it a simple fool's trap. Yanagi, furious, says it is unfair because she gave everything to the company. The man ignores her and announces that the company will be sold to the gentleman beside him for 90 yen. Yanagi is devastated and starts crying, saying the price is far too low and takes advantage of the weak. The man laughs and says she cannot make a counteroffer anyway. The company president arrives. The mustached banker quietly mentions a rumor that someone in town deposited 100,000 yen. The president notices Yudo and asks why he is here. Another elder who has just walked in asks if this is the same young man who made that deposit, and the banker confirms it. The elder introduces himself as Kinoshita, the company president's peer, and says it is an honor. Agata is stunned that two presidents are suddenly flattering Yudo. They turn and scold Agata to stay out of matters that concern someone who deposited 100,000 yen. Yudo asks if they truly plan to sell the company for 90 yen, but the shady executive hesitates and says they should drop the subject because he doesn't want trouble with Yudo. Yudo refuses to let it go. He tells Yanagi they need to clean up how things are run. He states that Agata was behind a scheme to push the company into debt and sell it cheap. The investors and the bank official say they will open an investigation. Agata tries to lie, but it is too late. In the next scene, the scandal is all over the news as the embezzlement is exposed. Someone pours wine to celebrate. Yanagi raises a glass and says Yudo saved her. Yudo calmly tells her she will manage the company from now on. She blushes and says she is not sure she is ready, since she is easily tricked. She stands and says if he trusts her that much, they should toast up close. She trips and Yudo catches her in a normal, non-awkward way. She twists her ankle and asks him to carry her downstairs, but warns him not to try anything. He lifts her as if she weighs nothing. Later, they reach a hotel room so she can rest. He sets her on the bed and turns to leave. Her leg hooks him fast like a trap. She smirks and says he walked right into it. Yudo flips the momentum back in his favor, and for once, teaches her how to play the top lane with crisp combos. After several rounds of matches, both Yudo and Yanagi are exhausted from playing for hours. Yanagi complains that she cannot believe someone as thin as Yudo can play for 6 hours straight. He tells her it is her own fault for provoking him into a competitive streak. Since they are in a best-of-5 ranked series to reach gold, they queue up for one final match. As the day ends, Yudo receives a new mission. He must spend 50 coins before the day is over. He suggests investing more money into the company, but Yanagi declines. She explains that they first need to recover from the recent financial damage before moving forward. Then, out of nowhere, she kisses him and says it is her way of thanking a shareholder. However, she suddenly stumbles and falls to the floor, her legs too weak to support her. She blames him for tiring her out. Yudo tells her to rest for the day, but she insists she still has enough energy to walk a little. Just as Yudo declares he is going to take a nap, he receives a phone call. Someone named Yamaguchi tells him that his aunt has been hospitalized. The scene shifts to the hospital. Yudo sits beside an elderly woman's bed. She weakly tells him that she has never felt this sick before. He comforts her, saying she is probably just exhausted from the year and will recover soon. His friend Yamaguchi, who grew up close to Yudo, recalls how he used to spend time at her house, eating all the food she cooked. Now Yudo peels something for her, maybe an apple, and offers her a bite. Yamaguchi had planned to ask Yudo for a small loan, but decides not to, worried by the recent scandals involving Yudo's company. Suddenly, a nurse rushes in with two doctors, whispering urgently about room 42. The bald doctor says that Miss Yamaguchi must be moved immediately. Her son protests, saying Yudo already promised to pay the bills soon. The nurse then explains that they have received a mysterious donation of 1 yen from an anonymous donor, and because of that, his aunt is being transferred to a VIP room. Yamaguchi is stunned, wondering who would donate just 1 yen, but the nurse assures them the donation is verified. The doctors then carefully lift the old woman and carry her away like royalty. She seems delighted, joking that she wants to stay close to such handsome doctors. In the new VIP suite, the medical staff even performs a cheerful little dance for her. Yamaguchi turns to Yudo, thrilled, saying that this feels like a dream come true. Yudo, without realizing his new strength, punches him lightly in the stomach to scold him for staying silent instead of asking for help. The blow nearly knocks the air out of him. Yudo reminds his friend that he should speak up next time. Yamaguchi apologizes, and Yudo assures him that he will always help if needed. With that, Yudo completes his secret mission and earns a new ability titled My Eyes Are a Ruler. He has no idea what it means, but he decides not to worry about it. Nearby in another VIP room, a young woman named Mika talks to a man in a hospital bed. She asks if she should call her younger brother, but the man says it is unnecessary. He just returned from a long flight and needs to rest. He hands her a folder, explaining that the project inside is critical for their company and cannot fail. Since Mika has experience with similar work, he trusts her to handle it. She promises to do her best and leaves for university. On her way out, an elderly woman suddenly blocks her path, throws herself onto the ground, and clings to Mika's legs while yelling at her to be careful. Mika is startled as bystanders rush over, claiming they saw her push the old woman. A man demands to know which university she attends so they can report her. Just then, Yudo appears and catches Mika before she stumbles. His new ability activates automatically, and because he has been observing carefully, he instantly calculates the exact distance between them, down to the centimeter, and even the approximate chest size of the girl he just saved. He pauses, confused, realizing something must be wrong with his system. The old woman continues to cling to Mika's legs, crying for help. Feeling guilty, Mika admits she might have brushed against her in a hurry. Yudo quickly stops her, telling her not to admit anything or she will fall into their trap, but Mika looks puzzled, not understanding what he means. Yudo studies the scene, using his new ability. He explains that when Mika was about 3 centimeters away, the woman deliberately threw herself down. He also notices several cameras positioned around them, all pointing directly at the scene. It looks like a setup. Mika agrees that something feels off. Yudo warns that someone might be trying to frame her. Mika calmly faces the woman and apologizes politely, saying she never actually touched her. The old woman becomes furious, shouting that cameras captured everything. Mika responds that they should then review the hospital's security footage. She adds that the cameras can slow down recordings by 1,000 times to see the exact moment she supposedly hit the woman. The scammers panic and flee immediately. Mika admits afterward that she made that up. She has no idea where the security cameras are. Both she and Yudo laugh, realizing they are equally mischievous. Mika introduces herself as Yamada Mika and thanks Yudo for helping her. He reaches out to shake her hand, but she walks off, saying he can visit her at the university if he wants. Yudo wonders if she might have ulterior motives, since her invitation seemed sudden. Back at his apartment that evening, around 6 o'clock, Yudo decides to unwind by watching live streams. On screen, 2 female streamers are in a competition for donations. One, named Yakachi, blows kisses at her viewers, asking for their support. The other, Kumaten, pleads for votes to avoid losing. Yakachi teases her rival, wondering what punishment the loser should face, maybe playing a game using her feet. Yudo's new My Eyes Are a Ruler skill activates again as he observes the scene. He comments aloud that the proportions in Yakachi's video look strange, probably because of a distorted table. Offended, the streamer snaps back, claiming her body has looked the same since the beginning of the stream. Moments later, Yudo's account is banned. Annoyed, Yudo switches to Kumaten's stream instead. She is panicking, saying the battle is nearly over and she is about to lose. Yudo decides to help and sends her a donation of 5 yachts, which costs about 30 cents. The entire chat explodes in shock. Kumaten jumps ahead in the competition, happily thanking him over and over. Yakachi realizes that this is the same viewer she banned earlier and tries to recover by performing wild dance moves to win back attention. But Yudo donates 10 more yachts to Kumaten, securing her victory. The competition ends with Kumaten celebrating and Yakachi fuming. Yudo even sends a message across all streams telling Yakachi that blocking him won't help. The embarrassed girl immediately apologizes and says she will accept any punishment. A little later, Yudo receives a private message from Kumaten, whose real name is Mourinyan. She thanks him for the huge donation, but nervously adds that she has nothing to offer in return and tells him he can request a refund if he wants. Yudo reassures her it's fine and that it wasn't that much money. Then Mourinyan notices his location in the system, sees that he lives nearby in the Maushi district, and suggests meeting for dinner. Yudo hesitates, suspecting that streamer girls only meet rich viewers to get more money out of them. Mourinyan insists on paying for dinner, which makes Yudo curious to see what kind of person she really is. At her home, Mourinyan's room is overflowing with expensive designer bags. Her mother is in the living room, complaining that her daughter leaves her alone all day. Mourinyan steps out, saying streaming is real work and that she only wanted to spend some time with her loving mother. Her mother scolds her, saying she already makes enough money and shouldn't waste her time streaming. She points out that Mourinyan's necklace alone costs 43 yen, far more than she could earn from online shows. Mourinyan cheerfully replies that she streams for fun, not for money, and adds that she met someone interesting today. Her mother's mood changes immediately. She warns Mourinyan to stop getting involved with random people from live streams and reminds her that her marriage will be arranged with the son of a well-known businessman. But when Mourinyan tries to argue, she is told to speak with her father instead. Meanwhile, Yudo is in the city, looking for a place to eat and drink. He decides fried chicken and beer sound perfect, so he heads to a small izakaya. Inside, a man is begging for leniency because he is behind on rent. A woman with curlers in her hair coldly tells him that she doesn't do charity. If he can't pay, he should disappear. She threatens to seize all his kitchen equipment if he doesn't pay soon, and the desperate owner pleads for more time, saying he just received a large catering order. But the woman ignores him and orders her goons to take everything. Before they can act, a hand grips one thug's shoulder. It's Yudo, and the thug freezes instantly. Yudo asks if the man is the owner and how much the rent is. The landlady sneers and demands to know who Yudo thinks he is. The woman mockingly asks if Yudo plans to pay the rent himself. She claims she was already being generous, but has to raise the price since the neighborhood is changing. The restaurant owner protests, saying she always finds an excuse to increase the rent. She shrugs and says she doesn't care. All the nearby shops belong to her anyway, and she's renting them to a large company for 2 yen per month. Yudo calmly pulls out his phone and makes a call while the woman smirks, saying that if he can pay 1 yen per month, she might let the man stay. On the call, Yudo thanks someone named Fujiwara, who happens to own most of the city. He then tells the landlady that she no longer needs to negotiate because he has already handled everything. She looks at him in disbelief and demands to know what he means. She insists that he has no authority since she owns all the building. When she orders her thugs to throw them out, Yudo moves faster than anyone can react. Using an open-armed stance, he knocks both goons flat on the ground in seconds. The woman screams and threatens to call the police. Yudo calmly drops a revelation. She only holds the usage rights to the property, she doesn't actually own it. Then he explains that he, on the other hand, just purchased the entire district. The crowd falls silent, waiting for his next move. Trembling, the woman asks what he plans to do. Yudo replies that he'll demolish the whole block for renovation. He doesn't care about the expense, since a few hundred yen means nothing to him. The woman panics and falls to her knees, begging for mercy. She offers to cut the rent in half and even cover the water bills herself. Yudo agrees to those terms. His system immediately registers a new skill, an alert that activates whenever someone tries to scam him. Later, the grateful restaurant owner grills a huge meal and insists that Yudo eats for free. Yudo thanks him, saying he's always been a fan of the food and will visit more often now. The old man smiles proudly explaining that the recipe has been passed down through generations. Suddenly, a familiar voice cuts through the chatter, joking about how strange it is to see a millionaire eating street food. It's Yanagi, the woman with the unsteady legs, who grins and says that at least the food tastes good. Yudo thinks to himself that she doesn't realize how much it actually cost him to buy this fried chicken in the first place. As he lifts a skewer, he notices something smells strange. Yanagi misreads his expression, thinking he's trying to smell her, and teases him by saying he could come to her place if that's what he wants. Yudo ignores the remark and shifts the conversation to business, saying he invited her to talk about a new company he plans to start. Yanagi asks if she will be his secretary, claiming it would suit her perfectly. Yudo says he hasn't decided yet, but the company will focus on investments and will be based in the same district. Excited, Yanagi offers to help him find the best office space since she knows the city well. She orders more food to take home, while Yudo tries not to blush. A few minutes later, she suddenly switches to a more romantic tone. She accuses him of cheating on her with other women while she works so hard. Yudo denies everything, but she insists that she can smell another woman on him. She says she doesn't want much from him, only that he calls her whenever he needs anything, and Yudo agrees, so Yanagi finally leaves, satisfied. As she walks away, his system flashes a warning. Someone nearby is watching them, and danger is approaching. Yudo suddenly grabs Yanagi's hands, pretending to be in pain. He tells her his stomach hurts badly and that he might have food poisoning. He insists that she should go home on her own. She sighs and agrees, but warns him that if he cancels next time, he'll owe her double the time together. Yudo waves her off, promising it won't happen again. Once she leaves, he turns sharply and calls out to whoever is hiding nearby. A group of men wearing matching hats steps out, their leader mocking Yudo's sharp instincts. The man tells him that, unfortunately, he picked the wrong person to mess with. Their weapons of choice are nothing more than baseball bats, showing that they're not exactly professional killers. The first man swings, but Yudo dodges easily. The second one attacks, and Yudo catches the bat with his bare hand. The impact nearly breaks his wrist, and even with his enhanced strength, he feels the pain shoot up his arm. Still, he stays calm and tells them there's no need for violence. They can solve this with money instead. But the thugs tell him their employer doesn't care about money, and that Yudo will have to pay with his life. Just as one of them raises a knife for a finishing blow, someone grabs his shoulder. A group of people suddenly appears, clapping and cheering, saying the actor's performance is impressive and realistic. It turns out the chaos was seen by a young troublemaker who quickly hired extras to stage a fake film scene, saving Yudo in the process. Yudo is speechless, watching as the supposed assassins become confused. The girl then throws a handful of cash into the air, creating even more distraction. With so many witnesses around, the attackers realize they can't continue and start backing off. Yudo advises them to leave quietly before things get worse. Even the henchmen look hesitant, glancing at the elderly women in the crowd who remind them of their grandmothers. Finally, they run off. The extras ask what they should do next, but the girl simply tells them to keep the money and says they'll talk another time. Yudo is left wondering who actually sent those men after him. The next morning, Yudo returns to the bank where he first opened his account. The curvy clerk from before walks in, looking tired after a long night. Suddenly, two men start scolding her, accusing her of being unprofessional and damaging the bank's reputation. She looks confused, not even knowing who they are. Moments later, the bank's main director, Fujiwara, arrives and demands to know why there's so much noise so early. The clerk greets him nervously, and Fujiwara tells her that he wants to introduce her to several important guests. One is the owner of a major Asian business group, another is a top investor, and a third runs an international finance company. The woman looks completely lost, having no idea why such powerful men are here. Fujiwara apologizes for the earlier commotion and invites everyone to the VIP room, where it turns out they've all come to meet someone named Matsushima, Yudo's full name. Hearing that, the clerk freezes in surprise. One of the guests suggests that Yudo could help train the bank's employees, and Fujiwara praises the idea. The clerk leans forward with a confident smile, thanking them and asking for their support. However, her tone annoys the men, who find it disrespectful. They grow irritated, complaining that Yudo shouldn't have such a bold secretary, but Baokatsu looks confused and explains that she isn't his secretary, she simply works at the bank. Right then, the clerk receives a call from Yudo, who says he's there to make another deposit. The moment everyone hears his name, they straighten up. Baokatsu explains that Yudo always contacts her directly since she was the first person he met when he joined the bank. Their attitudes shift instantly, and the same men who were angry a moment ago now praise her, calling her a capable and valuable employee. Later that day, the same clerk arrives home, exhausted. Yudo is already there waiting for her, revealing that this has all been part of their plan and that they have been cooperating to find out who's been targeting him. She explains that she took several buses and taxis to throw off anyone who might be following her. Yudo concludes that the threat isn't coming from the bank. It must be connected to the world of live streaming. Then his phone buzzes, a message from Meridian. She reminds him of their dinner plans and says she'll be waiting at a restaurant at 6 o'clock. Yudo sighs, realizing this is a missed opportunity to track his enemies. The scene shifts to the restaurant. When Yudo arrives, a staff member asks if he has a reservation, explaining that the place only serves important guests. Yudo looks confused, not realizing it was that kind of place. The waiter tells him he can add his name to the waiting list or hope for an open seat. Before he can reply, another employee steps in, scolding the first waiter for even speaking to someone who obviously can't afford to eat there. The first man bows and rushes away, while the rude one tells Yudo that they're not accepting job applications at the moment, leaving Yudo standing there in disbelief. Then Meridian calls, asking where he is. He explains that he's at the lobby, but being stopped from entering. Moments later, she appears behind him and greets him cheerfully. The security guard realizes his mistake and instantly panics. Yudo calmly tells him he's not here to apply for a job, but to eat dinner. The guard bows repeatedly, apologizing and wishes him a pleasant evening. Meridian, pleased, tells Yudo to follow her. She has prepared the evening carefully, even decorating the table with white lilies of the valley. When the waiter asks if she wants her usual order, she says yes, then turns to Yudo for his opinion, calling him her sponsor. Yudo simply says he's never been here before and will have what she's having. The waiter laughs under his breath, saying that's something only inexperienced diners say, and then, trying to embarrass him further, asks if the lady would like her usual wine. She agrees, but when he turns to Yudo, he politely declines, asking for a simple carbonated drink. The waiter scoffs, saying the restaurant only serves fine wine. No real gentleman would choose soda over quality alcohol. Yudo, losing patience, just asks if they have anything fizzy at all. The waiter sighs and mutters about poor customers ruining the restaurant's image as he walks away. Nearby, another couple sits watching. The man, shady and loud, wonders why such a fancy place is attracting low-class guests. Then his eyes fall on Meridian, and his expression changes. He nudges his wife, or at least the woman sitting beside him, and says it's time for the next round, but she hesitates, asking if he really wants her to do it again. Meanwhile, Yudo's food arrives, a giant king crab dish. Meridian stands up, saying she's going to the bathroom and that he can start eating without her. As soon as she leaves, the same shady woman approaches Yudo's table. She eyes the dish and teases him, saying it looks thick, creamy, and delicious, then leans closer and asks if she can have a taste. Yudo quickly realizes that dinner with Meridian is about to get far more complicated than he expected and wonders who this strange woman is. She tells him not to worry and says she will pay for the dish, which only confuses him more, and he laughs, saying that even a 5-star restaurant still attracts people who come to beg for food. Her smile vanishes. As she stalks past, she bumps her hip against his armrest, then loudly accuses him of doing something improper. Yudo, baffled, says he never touched her. She ramps up the performance, claiming he assaulted her and is now pretending to be innocent. She grabs a glass of water and throws it at him, but he leans aside and the water drenches a bald diner at the next table. Meridian returns and says the woman has gone too far. The woman snaps back, insists Yudo cross the line, and tells Meridian to stay out of it if she does not know who she is dealing with. A staff member arrives and addresses a manager, saying they have reviewed the security cameras. This time it is real staff, not actors. The footage shows the woman is lying, but she refuses to accept it and insists the staff must be mistaken, claiming she tripped and Yudo took advantage. Meridian ignores the excuses and tells the restaurant to warn nearby places about this repeat scammer. She suggests a full ban. The woman panics and asks who Meridian is to wield that kind of influence. Meridian casually snaps a photo and says she will post it on social media to alert everyone. She turns to Yudo and adds that she is only helping because he once helped her with a donation. The woman's scheme collapses. Her husband rushes over, apologizing and saying his wife must have drunk too much, then offers to cover everyone's meals as compensation, but begs them not to ban her. The woman starts to protest, but he orders her to apologize and leave. She bows her head and mutters an apology. He introduces himself as Nijima and looks to Yudo, while Mourinyan asks if Yudo wants to accept the offer. Yudo shrugs. If it is free, why refuse? Mourinyan presses the man to confirm he will pay for everything. He smiles confidently and tells her to order whatever she likes. A wildly expensive wine, the kind that costs millions, is brought out. Nijima leans back, thinking he can still turn this around. He plans to prove he is the one who can afford luxury, unlike the young man who must have saved for months just to be here. If Mourinyan prefers excitement, she will choose him tonight, but if she is more careful, he will keep repeating this display until she gives in. Instead, Mourinyan stands and invites Yudo to walk the city. Nijima sits frozen, unable to process what just happened. He hurries after them and says he is heading the same way. Mourinyan tilts her head and wonders why he does not stay and chat a bit longer. He tries to salvage dignity by asking to exchange numbers. She refuses. Right on cue, a staff member steps in and asks him to settle the check before leaving. The total is 3.20 ren. The number is small, but in this place it hits like a brick, and he realizes he has been played. Mourinyan walks off laughing and says it is fun to toy with men who think they can buy women so easily. She teases Nijima that if he could not pay, she would have covered it. Nijima loses control, raises his hand to slap her, and Yudo catches his wrist in midair without effort. In a quiet voice, Yudo asks what he thinks he is doing, and Nijima responds by asking who Yudo is affiliated with, to which Yudo replies that he belongs to no group. Nijima smirks and says that means Yudo must be the landowner, then invites him to visit the south side and see how he is treated there. Mourinyan grips Yudo's arm and leads him away. Later, at another venue, an older man appears at the top of the stairs. Mourinyan recognizes him as Uncle Yamada, vice president of the development bank. Yudo wonders why he is here. Yamada notices Mourinyan, then spots Yudo and rushes down, shaking his hands and saying it is an honor to meet him. Another senior investor arrives and gives Yudo an enthusiastic hug. As usual, Yudo finds himself surrounded by eager executives. Outside, Yudo flips a coin and makes a simple offer. Whoever discovers who sent the attackers will win his next investment. The old financiers promise results and dash off to their cars. Mourinyan apologizes, worried that her social media post exposed him, and asks if he wants her to delete it. Yudo tells her not to worry because he can handle it. Nijima reappears and calls out to Yudo to wait. Yudo wonders what he wants now. Nijima says it is time to give Yudo the treatment he deserves. He signals his brothers, who reach under their coats. Yudo tenses until they pull out coconut water. They crack the tops, splash it everywhere, and start dancing, praising the South's finest drink, then offer Yudo a bottle. Yudo has no idea what this spectacle means. Nijima suddenly drops to one knee, begs for investment, and admits he was wrong. He adds that he knows the underground well and can help find the person who ordered the hit. Yudo agrees to let him join the search. Just then, the restaurant owner from earlier arrives with a VIP card for Yudo and asks if he was satisfied with the service. Yudo says most everything was fine, but mentions the manager who mocked him for asking for soda instead of wine. The owner's face hardens. The manager realizes he is in deep trouble. The scene shifts to Yudo's sister, Saki, saying goodbye to a new friend, the same girl from the hospital, Mika, at the university. Saki beams, saying she is lucky to have met Mika, who is teaching her a lot and is considered a genius on campus. When Saki returns to her dorm room, 3 girls are waiting. She asks what is going on, then notices all her notebooks in the trash. She hurries over to recover them and asks what happened. The most striking of the 3 says she assumed Saki would not use them, so she threw them out. Saki checks her bed and finds it soaked. Another girl says she spilled milk by accident and mumbles an apology. The third folds her arms and asks if Saki has a problem with any of that. Saki stands there wide-eyed and overwhelmed with her books. She feels the pressure of the 3 bullies closing in. Just then, Yudo walked into the room, demanding to know if the rumors were true that his sister was being bullied. A few moments later, everyone ended up in the principal's office. Saki turned to her brother and told him not to worry, saying she was fine. The 3 bullies, the sporty girl and her 2 stylish friends, looked nervous and avoided eye contact, and one of them was even dressed like she was going to a party instead of college. Yudo calmly told his sister that he was there to take care of things. The principal explained that there seemed to be a bullying incident in Saki's dorm room. Yuto greeted the woman politely and asked her to go over everything carefully, knowing that if they ignored it, things could escalate. The principal agreed, which was why she had called him in. She then asked Saki to describe what happened. Yuto was confused when the three girls suddenly began crying, saying they were terrified of Saki because she had attacked them. Puzzled, Yuto asked his sister what really happened. The story flashed back to earlier. Saki had turned to face the bullies head-on. She ran forward with incredible speed, grabbed the first girl by the hair, and revealed a bald patch. Then she wrapped a wet blanket around the second one, saying she would help dry it properly. The rugby player tried to tackle her, but Saki easily dodged, caught her arm, and threw her onto the floor. The three bullies froze, while Saki warned them not to ever mess with anyone from the Matsushima family again. Yuto suddenly remembered that his sister had been unnaturally strong since childhood. She could lift heavy fish crates when she was only 9. Even so, he told the principal that Saki was not someone who liked fighting and that she must have been provoked. The principal said that might be true, but since all three witnesses gave the same story, and Saki herself admitted hitting them, the best solution would be for her to apologize so everyone could make peace while the school monitored the situation. Yuto agreed to her suggestion, saying he'd trust the principal's decision. Then he turned to the girls and said they should talk outside about how to make up. The bullies, acting self-righteous, demanded a sincere apology, which in their minds meant money. Yuto gave a small nod and said he'd be sincere indeed. At that moment, one of his men rushed in carrying several shopping bags. Inside were designer handbags, perfume, and even a brand new phone. The bullies gasped, saying this was more than enough sincerity. But Yuto wasn't finished. With a cold look, he dropped everything on the floor and told them such luxury didn't suit people like them. He demanded they explain why they targeted his sister. The girls panicked, realizing they weren't getting the gifts so easily. Yuto told them he would find out the truth anyway, so they might as well confess. Finally, the girl in the fancy dress admitted they had nothing personal against Saki. A guy from another department had paid them to bully her. She showed a photo of the man wearing a ridiculous helicopter hat and said his name was Shinji Yamada. Yuto's face darkened, clearly showing that he didn't like that name. Later, at the dormitory, Yuto arranged a new room for Saki so she wouldn't have to go back to the old one. She thanked him and said she wanted to look around, hoping to find someone she knew. In another part of the same building, Mika was struggling to fix a broken sink. When she turned around, she saw Saki in the room across the hall. Surprised but happy, she waved and said it was a funny coincidence that they ended up as neighbors. When Maki noticed the water still leaking, she asked Saki if there was a problem. Saki said she could handle it and went over to fix it herself. Yuto, who was nearby, felt like something strange was in the air. He turned and saw another familiar face, the clever girl from the hospital. She instantly recognized him too. Remembering their last meeting, she assumed he was some sort of stalker who had followed her all the way to the university. She threatened to call the police. Yuto quickly explained that he was just helping his sister move into the dorm room across from hers. Just then, his system alerted him that someone was about to take advantage of Maki and that he should help her. Before he could react, Saki appeared, saying it was just a coincidence that they all knew each other. She proudly added that she had already fixed the sink, and Maki was amazed at how fast it was done. When Maki tried turning the faucet to test it, disaster struck. Water burst everywhere, soaking her completely. Saki laughed while the poor girl stood there drenched. Later, Yuto thought about the strange message from his system. He imagined warning Maki to be careful, but realized she would probably think he was insane. Saki, noticing her brother deep in thought, teased him and said she would help him become happy, clearly referring to helping him win over Maki. A few moments later, Maki was back to normal, smiling and saying everything was fixed now. Saki invited her to dinner as an apology, assuring her that her brother wouldn't be there. Maki agreed, saying that worked perfectly since she had also planned to take Saki somewhere nearby. Yuto saw this as the perfect opportunity to gather information. It seemed he had even included Saki in his plan, and now he only needed to deal with the man in the helicopter hat. Later that day, under the blazing sun, Yuto picked up his phone and asked if he should head to the Koriyama race circuit. The rugby player confirmed that Shinji Yamada was usually there. Yuto spotted someone nearby talking about race bets and told the rugby player that if she ever bothered his sister again, it wouldn't end so easily next time. She nodded, thanked him, and left. When Yuto reached the circuit, a guard stopped him, saying the area was for VIPs only. Yudo asked how he could get in, and the guard said that only official members with access cards were allowed. Yudo glanced around and noticed a small motorbike parked nearby. When he asked whose it was, the guard said it was his. Without hesitation, Yudo handed the man a pile of cash, grabbed the bike, and roared off. Meanwhile, Shinji was showing off his car to Fujio, bragging about all the modifications he'd added: automation, upgraded engines, and expensive parts. As he spoke, a loud engine sound echoed through the area. Yudo appeared, speeding in on the little motorbike, then performed a stunt that ended with him landing directly on Shinji's car. Shinji was stunned. Yudo simply commented that the car's upgrades clearly didn't include durability, since it broke so easily. Shinji stared at the wreck in disbelief, wondering why this mysterious man had just crashed into him before the race even began. Yudo tells Shinji not to worry about the damage, he'll cover it, but first, they need to talk about Shinji bullying his sister. The moment Shinji hears this, he realizes who Yudo is. It turns out Shinji's grudge comes from an old incident. Yudo once got involved in something that ruined Shinji's friend's life, forcing the guy to transfer schools. This, apparently, is Shinji's twisted revenge. He proposes a race to settle things. The loser must kneel and apologize. Yudo agrees but adds that if he wins, Shinji must kneel before his sister. Shinji accepts but mocks Yudo, asking what car he plans to drive. Yudo calmly says his little motorbike still has fuel. Shinji laughs, sure that this will be an easy win. When the race begins, Shinji and two other racers take off in sleek Ferraris, while Yudo trails far behind on his tiny bike. Shinji, confident in his expensive car, enjoys the thrill of victory before it even happens. He gives Yudo a thumbs down, thinking the man must be terrified to even be on the same track. But Yudo remains calm, saying that only fools rush to win. Then something unexpected happens, as Yudo makes a call and asks if his team is ready. Moments later, helicopters appear above, and spike strips rain down onto the track, shredding tires everywhere. Most cars spin out of control, but Shinji narrowly dodges the traps. Still, he's forced to slow down, and that's when Yudo speeds past him. It all starts to make sense. Yudo once worked as a delivery driver, so his bike handling skills are top-notch. Shinji, furious, pushes his car to the limit, determined not to lose. He even tries to ram Yudo off the track. Yudo can't believe he's actually doing it, but Shinji screams for him to move or die. He ends up crashing into a wall. When he stumbles out, Yudo is gone, only to appear moments later, descending from a helicopter. Yudo tells him that since he crashed, the race is over and Shinji lost. Later, Yudo orders Shinji to kneel and apologize, while recording the moment to show his sister. Shinji refuses. At that moment, a man known as Fuji, often called Twilight's Edward Cullen by others, steps in and says that since Shinji technically finished first, he doesn't have to obey Yudo. Shinji looks relieved, thanking Fuji for defending him. But Yudo reminds them that the deal was between him and Shinji over his sister, not about who crossed the line first. Shinji tenses up and challenges Yudo to settle it with fists instead. Before he can act, Miki appears out of nowhere, slapping him hard across the face. She tells him that if his father won't discipline him, she will. To everyone's surprise, Shinji calls her Big Sis. Now Yudo realizes Miki and Shinji are siblings, and this changes everything. Miki, furious, stands tall like a giant. She scolds Shinji, saying their parents didn't raise him to behave like this in public, and when he tries to defend himself, she cuts him off, saying she's ashamed of him. He clings to her legs, begging for forgiveness and admitting he was wrong. Yudo stands there shocked, realizing that Miki, the same woman he's been working with, is Shinji's older sister. She awkwardly confirms it, embarrassed by her brother's behavior. Saki then steps forward and explains that she told Miki why she had to move dorms, and that's why Miki showed up. She was so angry she came to teach Shinji a lesson herself. Before Yudo can respond, Fuji interrupts and tells Shinji that the only way to save his reputation now is to apologize properly. He introduces himself as Fuji and warns Yudo to be careful since he's from the Bunnan region, a place known for power and wealth. Yudo, unimpressed, says he doesn't care where Fuji is from or about his status. Yudo punches the car so hard it almost caves in, showing that his strength is clearly beyond normal. He walks up to Shinji and warns him that if he doesn't bow his head willingly, he'll make him. Shinji looks desperately to his sister for help, but she tells him to take responsibility for what he's done. Trembling, he drops to his knees in front of Saki and begs for forgiveness. Yudo smirks and tells him to speak louder so Fuji can hear it too. Fuji clenches his fists in rage, swearing that Yudo will pay for humiliating them. But Saki says it's enough and asks Yudo to go home. She wants to spend time with Mickey instead. Mickey suggests they go shopping, and Saki excitedly agrees, even joking that she might borrow Mickey's clothes. Yudo can't help but tease them, saying Mickey's clothes won't fit her. Both girls freeze, wondering how he could possibly know their measurements. Yudo just stands there, completely unbothered, his keen observation skills leaving them speechless. Meanwhile, Fuji, still fuming, demands to know what kind of relationship Yudo has with Mickey. Shinji joins in, insisting she get in his car. But Mickey refuses, saying she doesn't even like sports cars. Fuji insists again, arguing that Yudo's bike can't carry 3 people anyway. Just then, another car pulls up, and someone yells for Shinji to move his junk out of the way. It's Nijima, the same crazy guy from the restaurant. Fuji asks what he's doing there, but Nijima ignores him, saying he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Fuji tries to mock him, saying that without his family's influence, he'd be nothing. Nijima pays no attention and greets Yudo respectfully, even whispering something in his ear. Then Nijima turns to the girls and says that if they're friends of Yudo, they can ride with him. Saki hesitates, whispering to her brother, asking if they can really trust this guy. Yudo says it's fine and tells her not to worry. Saki grabs Mickey's hand, pulling her along to the car. Nijima hands Yudo the keys, calling him boss. Shinji, however, feels uneasy and apologizes to Fuji, saying he did his best. Fuji looks furious but holds himself back. Trying to regain some pride, Fuji asks Shinji how the talks with their father are going, and Shinji admits he hasn't heard back yet. Fuji smirks and taunts him, saying Mickey probably already knows but hasn't told him. The words hit hard. Shinji's confidence crumbles as Fuji watches, satisfied that his manipulation is working perfectly. A car speeds through the city streets, but Yudo is not the one driving. He asks Nijima what he knows about the men from the track. Nijima explains that Fuji is the second son of a wealthy family from the Bunnan region, yet he is treated as a disgrace. Yudo wants to know why. Nijima says Fuji was a pampered child who chased perfect grades, learned piano, and played chess, so people constantly compared their own children to him and resented it. Now the resentment has flipped, and everyone is eager to see him fall. Yudo had expected a darker story, but the man beside him is not much better. They drop Mickey off near campus. She thanks them and chooses to walk the last 1 kilometer, so she is not seen arriving in a luxury car. Yudo gets out as well and says he will walk with her. Nijima watches them go and mutters that the kid is remarkable, 2 beauties next to him, yet he is focused only on finding the 3 men who attacked him. Nijima adds that they already identified the attackers and only need Yudo's word to move. Yudo warns him not to involve the police and to be careful. They arrive at a mansion that looks like a small castle. Several women stare at the car and sneer, until one recognizes it as a McLaren worth millions, and the mocking stops. A woman in a short dress clings to Nijima's arm, calling the car perfect and asking for his number. He tells her they will exchange numbers after they spend time together later. Yudo asks where they are. Nijima says it is a house for late-night business and reminds him that money is not everything. In a back room, Nijima adds that the man who ordered the hit is next door. He runs this place, so nothing escapes him. A host enters and offers help. Yudo asks for all the recordings from the adjacent room. The host refuses, saying that privacy is the foundation of the business, and that if any footage leaks, his reputation will be ruined. Yudo flips a 1 yen coin onto the table and tells him to bring the feeds. He then raises the offer to 2 yen, and finally to 5 yen, and says that is his limit. The host's resolve crumbles, and he agrees to fetch the files immediately. Soon they are seated before a large screen. Nijima grumbles but admits money is the fastest solution. The video shows a man relaxing with companions. Yudo does not enjoy watching, but he needs answers. The man makes a crude move, and the worker warns that special requests cost extra. The man says to relax and boasts that his boss manipulated a certain girl from the hospital. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.